If you ask a game developer how they learned programming and design, chances are they'll tell you all about the work they put in on their own time. Many of them taught themselves how to code, and most of them learned little of game development in the classroom. But over time, those tools got better. GameMaker and Adobe Flash arose in the 90s and made game development software more accessible and somewhat easier to learn. More importantly, however, the internet has made the information on how to use these engines much easier to find and consume. In addition, several games give users streamlined tools to learn game system design, such as Project Spark and Hack-a-Slash. Kids can now even go to summer camps to get their first exposure to development. With all of the new tools, there's a generation of kids that have grown up learning how to play, design, and program games from a very early age. This new trend in development brings us to Girls Make Games, a 3-week summer camp for young girls who want to learn how to program, design, and create games. The team members have been taught about coding and design, and they've been given the opportunity to work with developers, come up with ideas, and put those ideas into action. The girls at this camp are between 11 and 16 years old, and they represent the new wave of game developers. These girls will be growing up with the knowledge of how to make games and use them as places of personal expression. Much like how kids are taught in school from a young age to use writing to communicate emotions and thoughts, now games are taking on a similar role for children. This is how we get games like last year's winner at the Girls Make Games camp. It launched on Steam last week after being successfully kickstarted. And this year, 5 more interesting and incredibly creative games were competing for the top prize, the chance to be kickstarted and eventually be sold on Steam. One of the judges helping to decide which game won was Robin Henneke, who you might know as the producer of Journey from that game company. She explained that this camp represents a new generation of game developers who have learned to make games earlier than ever before.
When I started out, it was pretty opaque. It wasn't really clear how do I get started, what programming language should I learn, maybe I have to learn C++ from scratch or C, and now you can go in there, you can start up with Unity and do a little bit of editor script, and suddenly, hey, you have something on screen. So it's much easier to get started. But also, and this is the thing that I think is really revolutionary, is that we can share our ideas and we can fund our ideas on the internet with crowdsourcing, crowdfunding. You can end up in a situation where you have assets at your disposal and money at your disposal and a whole audience following you just because you clicked a button, which I think is really fantastic. When I started, it was a little bit different. I think it's super compelling to think about what the world would be like if everybody could take their creative and interesting, fantastical ideas and turn them into something to share with someone else, right? I mean, learning to express ourselves and share our vision is what makes us understand one another more. And also, it really broadens the landscape of what games can be about, you know? If you imagine what the world would be like if everyone's interior sort of was shareable and something that other people could see, it would probably be a more peaceful and whole place. So I really like the idea of people being able to find that voice, especially young people, because young people are the future.
The barrier to entry for game development has lowered, and the results are already obvious. More games than ever before are being released on Steam, mobile app stores, and even on consoles. More kids are learning how to make games even as they learn how to play them. Kids are bringing their own unique perspectives to game development, creating stories evocative of their own personal experiences. These new developers exist outside the world of focus groups and big publishers, and they make games because they're simply passionate about the medium. Games have always been artistic, but this surge in game development has cemented them as an art form. Like painting or poetry, games have become another way to communicate with an audience and to achieve personal expression. The Girls Make Games camp is just one example of a new mindset that game development is an acceptable, legitimate career. And as a result, these kids are excited and encouraged to continue making games. They are a big new generation of developers that will have the skills and the desire to make games by the time they become adults. They're developing games with the creativity of youth, and with the lessons they learn early, they'll be equipped to make incredible projects later on. I don't know about you, but to me, that's the most exciting thing in games right now.